Potential complications after surgery. You have the dumping syndrome. This is specific to gastric bypass patients. So dumping syndrome is severe flu-like symptoms like throwing up, nausea, diarrhea, the sweats. And basically you can get it from two categories of foods. It's either from sugars and or fats. Some patients get it from just one, others from both. So you have this extra negative reinforcement to stay away from fried heavy fats and also sugars. So again, as long as you follow the guidelines that we had talked about at the beginning, all liquids, your liquids need to be less than 5 grams of sugar. And then for foods, protein has to be higher than sugar and carbohydrates have to be less than 15 per meal. As long as you do that, you're not going to trigger the dumping syndrome. Nausea and vomiting, a lot of patients will experience this after surgery. You remember, we're either putting aside or removing 70 to 90% of your stomach. So again, you don't have those digestive enzymes. So one of the best things to prevent or minimize this from happening is taking those really small bites, right? It's really like pea-sized bites and chewing your food to applesauce consistency. So your teeth, mechanical digestion. You do not have the digestive enzymes to break it down. So your teeth are your digestion. So that's why we want you chewing your food to applesauce consistency and then taking time. So taking a few minutes in between bites. So eating very slow, very small bites and chewing your food really well before swallowing. And then also, following the plan, the food plan. So a lot of times you guys are trying foods before you're supposed to. And there's reasons why we have grocery lists for each stage. So as long as you follow and stick to the foods that we tell you can have in each stage, again, that also will minimize your chances. Highly recommend that you do ginger. We had talked about that before. I would not wait to see if you get sick. You're doing clear liquids in the beginning anyway, so I would buy the ginger, chop it up and boil it. And then definitely you want to take a probiotic. Highly recommend a probiotic. And this is actually pre-surgery. So a really good probiotic is going to get your gut really strong and put good, live, healthy bacteria in your gut. So a lot of the possible complications after surgery, like constipation, nausea, bloating, even absorption of nutrition, so that malnutrition piece, a probiotic helps all of that. So it's not mandatory, but I highly recommend that you do 1 bottle of a probiotic about 6 weeks before surgery. I recommend this particular probiotic because when you do a probiotic, for it to do everything that I'm saying, it's got to be what we would call a therapeutic dose. And so for it to be a therapeutic dose, it has to have at least 1 billion units. 1 billion units and 10 or more strains. So I don't care which one you do as long as it's got these guidelines of 1 billion units and 10 or more strains. So if you look at Garden of Life Raw, RAW, they have a women's formula and a men's formula. There's 85 billion live cultures. And this is really important too. You want to get one that has live cultures and then 32 different strains. So with the different strains, that's addressing a different issue. So there's certain live bacteria that is going to help with constipation. There's certain live bacteria that's going to help with diarrhea, help with nausea, help with absorption of nutrition. So obviously the more strains you have, the better effect it's going to have. So 1 bottle 6 weeks before surgery, and I promise you it's going to definitely make your life so much easier after surgery. And what you'll do is you'll take this right actually up till the day before surgery. So you start 6 weeks before. You want to ideally finish 1 bottle. So you'll take it right up until the day before surgery. And then if for whatever reason, if you weren't able to finish that 1 bottle, you'll pick it back up when you start your supplements in week 2, day 9 or 10 after surgery. The only difference is it's a capsule. So you'll have to open the capsule up and put it either in your protein shake or your yogurt or whatever. Dehydration is also can be a problem after surgery just because it's hard to get your fluids in. So your baseline fluid needs is that 48 ounces of fluids. Remember sipping, starting your day off with those warm fluids, whether it's an herbal tea or a broth to relax those muscles to get more fluids in. So either think warm or room temperature at the beginning. And also until you're drinking that baseline 48 ounces, you want to stay away from coffee. Coffee is a diuretic, so what that does is it pulls fluids out of you. You can bring coffee back in once you're easily drinking that 48 ounces of fluids. Lactose intolerance, this is specific to gastric bypass patients. So you get sick from the milk sugar. So ideally it's milk, ice cream, and but you usually still can do yogurt, cheese, cottage cheese, because they don't have the milk sugars in them. Or like with yogurt, you have the live bacteria that actually helps break down the lactose. So if you are a milk drinker, the only milk we recommend drinking after surgery is Fairlife milk. We've talked about it before, but regular milk, and it doesn't matter the percentage. So a lot of times people think, well, I drink 1% milk. Well, the percentage, whether it's 1, 2% or whole milk, that's actually referring to the fat content. And lactose is the sugar. So we're referring to the sugar. So regular milk, regardless of what percentage it is, it's got about 8 grams of protein and 12 grams of sugar. So remember, we want to stay away from things that have more sugar than protein. Where Fairlife milk, it's real cow's milk. It's just ultra filtered milk. It has actually 13 grams of protein and only 6 grams of sugar. So if you're going to do milk, you want to stick to the Fairlife milk. Excess gas, again, digestion. So definitely the probiotic is going to drastically help with minimizing the excess gas, which actually can be really painful right after surgery just because your pouch is so tiny. So and again, following the food plan, the things we tell you to stay away from. So the things that cause a lot of gas, your legumes, your beans, your cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. And that's why when I talked about bringing in vegetables in stage 4, I encouraged you to wait, a while before you brought those back in. Sugar alcohols, you do have to be careful with sugar alcohols. So sugar alcohols are going to be in like your sugar-free chocolates, sugar-free candies. And so it's not a free-for-all. So ideally, you want to keep your sugar alcohols under 15 grams for the day. What research shows, as long as it's under 15 grams, you don't have that horrible excess gas. Chewing gum causes gas, and drinking through a straw. So that's why we talked about also not chewing gum and not drinking through a straw for the first at least a minimum of 6 weeks after surgery. You definitely, Fairlife milk helps because it has a digestive enzyme in it. You can do a digestive enzyme, and then they have the Gas-X strips. So you might want to get those and have those right after surgery so you're prepared if you do have that excess gas. Constipation can be a problem after surgery. Usually it's mainly with definitely sleep patients and sometimes gastric bypass patients. So, and it's kind of this a multitude of things happening. So one, we already talked about dehydration. So it's really hard to get your fluids in. And so dehydration is one of the biggest issues. So really working on getting those minimum of 48 ounces of fluids in. The other thing that I've learned just throughout the years is, especially with gastric bypass and sleeve, is doing too much of a protein shake. So like, for example, the Premier protein shake is 30 grams of protein, and patients will be doing 2 of those a day. And so what I've found is just cutting back on the protein supplement helps minimize constipation. So just remember, if you're having gastric bypass or sleeve, you want to keep your protein supplements to no more than 40 grams. So you're going to do 40 grams from the supplement and the rest from food. Again, trying to make sure you get those fruits and vegetables in when possible. Healthy fats also, like, and especially like avocado. If you like avocado, avocado is great because it's a healthy fat, but it also actually has fiber in it as well. Walking, moving. So getting out, we talked about the exercise, moving, 5 to 15 minutes a couple times a day also is going to help. Um, adequate hydration, not overdoing your protein supplements, getting those variety of fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats in when appropriate, and moving your body throughout the day. Now, the other thing I definitely recommend, again, you're doing clear liquids in the beginning anyways. So there is a tea that's by Yogi. There's two actually. One's called Get Regular. The other one's called Smooth Move. Highly, highly recommend that you get it. Again, you don't want to wait until you're impacted and back in the hospital, which is extremely painful. So these are preventative measures. So you want to be the person that says, you know what, I did everything they told me to do, and I had smooth sailing. I had no problems. That's what you want your story to be. So the more you do these preventative measures, you drastically decrease your chances of having these potential complications after surgery. So I'd get either the Yogi Get Regular, the Smooth Move, and just drink it. Drink it. Don't wait for you to be constipated. And of course, we already talked about the probiotic. So doing the probiotic also is a huge preventative measure to minimize your chances of the constipation. Diarrhea, now on the opposite side, so definitely my loop, my standard DS, my distal revision patients, you are triggered by fats. So especially your fried, greasy food, heavy fats. So anything fried, greasy meat. So like when you do bring ground beef in, excuse me, doing the lean ground beef, processed fats like bacon, sausage, salami, things like that. Even cream soup. So a lot of times patients they'll get like cream of broccoli or cream of mushroom soup or clam chowder, those cream soups, also Alfredo sauce. So if you're having the loop, the standard DS or the distal revision, you really got to minimize your fat intake so it doesn't trigger that diarrhea. And then also gastric bypass patients, you guys can go either way. You guys can have severe constipation, but you also can have really bad diarrhea as well. And there's a multitude of reasons. So you guys have the dumping syndrome, and part of the dumping syndrome is diarrhea. So if you're doing fats and sugars, again, a lot of sugar-free products, whey-based things. So like when we talked about protein powders, I said if you're going to do a whey-based protein powder, it needs to be lactose-free because whey is from milk, and that triggers diarrhea. And of course, your fried, greasy foods as well. Hair loss. So we lose hair every day. So it's something that naturally happens, but we're constantly growing hair. So I'm not going to say that you can stop hair loss. That isn't really the goal, but you want to minimize it where you can't really tell, right? So first of all, anytime you go through a major stressor, which surgery, so with surgery, you actually are going to two top major stressors because surgery is a major stressor and drastic change in diet is also a major stressor. So you have two major stressors at one time. So a lot of times when your body is stressed and it stops doing, it shuts down in things that aren't efficient or essential for living. And so obviously hair growth is not essential for living. So part of it, the hair growth is just from the surgery and the stressors itself. But another big piece of it is just diet, right? Malnutrition. And so that's a big part of it is just protein fat synergistic approach. So I can't stress the protein and the fats together. A lot of times you guys will focus on your protein, but you do not get your fats in. If you're not eating your 3 healthy fats a day, you're going to be taking in probably 300 to 400 calories a day. You're definitely losing your hair. So even if you're doing 100 grams of protein, if you're only eating 300 calories a day, intake is just way too low, right? So getting those proteins and healthy fats together, definitely taking appropriate vitamins, which we're going to talk about in a minute. If you have thin hair, I recommend taking biotin. All you need to do is take 5,000 micrograms. Anything over that is a waste. Your body's only going to absorb about 5,000 micrograms at a time. And if you have thin hair, I definitely recommend taking the biotin when you start taking your probiotics. So 6 weeks before surgery, or even sooner, you can take it as soon as you start the process. You want to get your hair thick before you have surgery, because what happens, I notice a lot of patients that have thin hair, even if they only lose a little bit of hair, you can see the scalp because their hair is so thin. So if you have thicker hair, when you do lose your hair, you don't notice it as much because your hair is thicker. And then I definitely recommend a collagen peptide after surgery. Now, they have pill or powder format. I would get the powder, and this is going to help hair, skin, and nails. And so, because it helps also with the elasticity of the skin. And the key with collagen peptides is it's a pre-broken down protein, so you don't want to add it to anything. So they do have flavored. So you could buy a flavored collagen peptide and add it to water and just drink it. Or if you get the unflavored, you need to add it to a non-nutritional value drink, like a Bai Water, or Vitamin Water Zero, Crystal Light Pure. So those type of things. Do not add it to your protein drink, because collagen peptides, because it's pre-broken down protein, if it's by itself, it absorbs into your body really fast. And so if you're concerned about hair loss, you want to do the basics, right? Get your proteins, fats, take those appropriate vitamins. You can do additional biotin, additional collagen peptides if you want.